So you are currently in the Mentoring Matters discussion room, and this is the Mentoring Club's forum to discuss topics about mentoring. We are a global community that believes in changing the world one leader at a time through mentoring. And our mission is to provide a mentoring community for aspiring and seasoned leaders. Anywhere in the world, we help people find mentors who can guide them to develop the skills they need to achieve their career and life goals. And we help mentees fulfill their goals through meaningful work that creates positive impact in the world. So, meaningful work is important because when we know that what we do is meaningful, then the leaders in us come out. Our ultimate vision is that as mentees become successful leaders, that they will also become mentors to others. And the way that we would like to attract people into our community is by sharing with them our core values. The first group of values is anchored on trust. So we believe that integrity, honesty, and commitment are what make us trustworthy as individuals and professionals. The second anchor value is leadership. And the values under that are health, vision, and execution. We need all these values to be successful leaders. The last anchor value is community. The values under this are humanity, contentment, family. At the end of the day, these are the social grounding values that make us feel fulfilled and happy. We are grateful to have with us today one of our discoveries. We started our relationship here on Clubhouse. It's probably 2 years ago now, Brian, that we've built such a great relationship with him and his work in helping people really find the work that they are meant to do. So let me give you a little bit of background about Brian. Brian Golod was born and raised in Buenos Aires, Argentina. He studied computer science at the number one middle and high school in Argentina and got an early start. After working for the government of Canada twice, tech multinationals, startups, and everything in between, he realized that he was able to help professionals get back on their feet and advance in their careers. He started doing this on the side for free, just trying to give back to society, and eventually realized that he couldn't live the rest of his life without pursuing his purpose. And that's why he's here with us today. We have some alignment in our missions. And he says it is impossible to describe how he feels every time someone gets the job they want with his help.
Thank you so much, and thank you for continuing to mentor everyone so selflessly and for everyone to be here. I'm just happy to be here because, just like Liesel was saying, anytime that I get an opportunity to make a positive impact in somebody else's life, you just never know how that life might get transformed. Sometimes we have the privilege of witnessing that transformation, and sometimes we don't. And then that soul basically just goes away, but then that person, that professional has an impact in the world and in turn makes this world a better place for everyone. I wasn't really looking for this specifically with regards to mentoring professionals. I really didn't know that I could do this. I didn't know that I have this. I call it more than a skill, it's more like a gift. I discovered it just because I wanted to find something to be able to leave my footprint in this world, a positive impact, to make this world a better place. And I realized, just like Liesel was saying, I cannot live my life now without doing this on a day-to-day basis. I've been in technology for 25, 26 years. Have been a full stack developer, business analyst, scrum master, and product owner. I have my own business. I am mentoring professionals, mainly in North America. About 80% of them are in North America, about 20% are elsewhere across the world, across multiple industries and jobs that I have no idea what they do, but it's amazing to be able to do this. The one thing that I always try to make sure is that when I take somebody else's time, which is precious, time is money, time is precious, you cannot give it back to people. I want to make sure that people walk away empowered, with answers, with clarity, with solutions, inspired, and hopefully that all the things that I share tonight here with you guys or anywhere else, that they don't go 1 year in, 1 year out, and then you go back to your normal life and it's like nothing happened. I sincerely hope that you take something and that you're able to act on it and see the benefits of doing whatever it is that I suggest. My motivation is not for you to become clients of mine. My motivation is that you benefit from something and that you put it to use and that you benefit yourself personally, professionally, financially in some way. So feel free to ask any questions that you want throughout this entire session. Feel free to interrupt me as many times as you want as well. I have no problem with that. I'm not going to follow a script tonight. I want to make sure that this is focused on you. If you have a challenge right now and you want me to focus on you, I will. I have no problem doing that. Before I start, just to to act on what I just mentioned, if anybody has any questions right now before I even begin and you want to ask, I can write them down or I can put them in my mind and I can squeeze them in throughout this session to make sure that it flows for everybody. Anybody wants to ask any questions at all before I even begin? Anything that you brought with you?
Brian, let me just limit it to 3 questions, which you probably can cover within your talk. The number one question is, when we were trying to arrange this, when we were discussing and arranging this session, we thought of, oh, what would be a good title for this conversation, right? And we talked about securing your dream job. How do you define one's dream job?
Okay, I love it. So first of all, the question that you should be asking yourself, everybody, every single one of us, are we excited every single day? Are we looking forward to getting up in the morning and going to work, whether it is that we work at the office, in the field, driving around, or in our home office or from the kitchen? Even though I have a home office, I like to work from the kitchen because I love the sunlight. Are we excited? Do we actually love it? Or do we have to convince ourselves and we have to drag ourselves out of bed? So if the answer is I actually love what I do, you may as well just call this your dream job. You might actually have it. Okay. When I grew up, I wanted to be an astronaut, but I didn't do anything to pursue that career. So I cannot be an astronaut. I would have loved to be an astronaut. I would love to go to space, but I have to be a realistic, in my wheelhouse of what I can actually do. Within technology, I have found exactly what I wanted to do, which is lead software development teams. As a product owner, that's what I've been doing. If you go to my LinkedIn profile, you can see that for the last so many different organizations they've worked at, I've been product owner, product owner, product owner, product owner, product owner. Why? It's not because I couldn't do anything else or because I couldn't ascend in my career. It's because I really found the thing that I love the most. I love liaising between stakeholders, like business stakeholders, clients, and my software development team. I have a technical background, so I didn't want to lose that, and I wanted to be able to communicate and collaborate and solve people's problems. So I found my sweet spot. I am blessed to look forward to doing that. Besides that, I also have my own business where I get to mentor professionals on a daily basis. I look forward to changing people's lives. So I have an amazing life. I can't complain about this. For yourselves, what you need to ask yourself is, if you are not at this moment loving what you do, then what is it that you want to do? What do you enjoy doing the most? Have you asked yourself this question? And are you very intentional about this or not? Because a lot of people complain about what they have, and this is something that we also should address, which is, do you appreciate what you have? A lot of professionals, they basically drive themselves nuts, just telling themselves how miserable they are, how unfortunate they are. Oh, I have to commute so long. I have a micromanager. I have my colleagues are mean. It's a very toxic environment. There's no room for growth. They're not compensating me fairly, and so on and so forth. A whole bunch of different things. But yet, they are able to feed themselves. They're able to feed their families. They're able to pay rent or their mortgages. So we have to appreciate what we have, because the alternative is to not even be able to pay our bills and to feed our families or ourselves. So a lot of professionals come to me and they say, Brian, I want to quit. So you want to quit? Okay. Do you have another job offer? No. So then, unless you tell me that you are going to jump off a bridge, please do not quit, because you're going to be way more attractive when you're looking for another career opportunity if you're employed. If you happen to be unemployed, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to get a job. It doesn't mean that at all. Someone is going to give you an opportunity after some time. However, if you happen to be employed, you are incredibly more attractive to any prospective employer. It's much easier to be able to get job offers. So be careful with this, because no one, and I've mentored so many professionals from different industries, different countries, continents, who never planned to be unemployed for 21 months, 24 months. Now I met someone yesterday from India who lives here in Toronto, 5 years unemployed. No one plans to be unemployed for that long, right? So let's be very practical about where we're at and let's really appreciate where we're at. And then ask yourself what you want to do. What job do you really want to do? A lot of professionals, unfortunately, are very confused in terms of what it is that they're looking for. As I was mentioning, I've had four different roles in technology. So, full stack software developers, business analyst, scrum master, and product owner. But I don't apply for four type of different jobs at the same time. I have clarity in terms of what it is that I want to do. I already moved on from those three other roles, and whenever it is that I'm looking for consulting opportunities, I look for just product owner. Just because they have the skills to be able to do a whole bunch of different roles, they basically have multiple versions of their resumes and they apply to all these different roles. It's key that we protect ourselves and that we look for the things that are going to make us happy. Which is that job that is going to give you the most happiness and fulfillment? You have to ask yourself. A lot of professionals cannot really come to that answer clearly. So what I ask them is the following: if you want a quick trick or exercises, basically, if you have four different roles that you could do, because you have the skills, you have the experience, you have the education, get rid of one. Which out of the four, which is the one that is your least favorite? Okay, whichever one it is. Let's say full stack developer. I don't want to be doing development right now. I don't want to be coding. I want to be talking to people. Okay, business analysis, Scrum Master, Product Owner, those roles are about talking to people and leading software development teams. Okay, now that I have those three, which is my least favorite? I don't like to write requirements like I did when I was a business analyst. I mean, if I had to choose from those three to get rid of one, it would be that one. And now I have two, right? Which one is it? Well, Scrum Master or Product Owner. Well, I like to lead the software development team. I don't want for people to come to me with all their problems, to complain that they have obstacles and this and that. Oh, that's for being a Scrum Master. I want to actually understand requirements. I want to write down the user stories. I want to liaise with my software development team and lead them. Okay, that's Product Owner. Great. I found the one that I wanted. If you want to look at it in a different way, maybe you've had different roles along your journey. Another way to look at this is, do you remember which was the role where you felt like, wow, I can't believe that they actually pay me to do this? Maybe you had it just now, maybe you had it many years ago, and you felt that way, and then you moved on and you did a whole bunch of different things, but you're like, you know what? That role brought me so much happiness. In that role, I did so incredibly well. Sure, maybe they paid me less, but now I have a lot of other experiences as well. Just because they were paying me less back then, it doesn't mean that I will be making less money now. Just ask yourself what you really want to do. And if it is nothing that you've done before and nothing that has your skills or your experience or your education, then ask yourself what is it that you will need to do to be able to get there. Because one of the things that a lot of professionals also come to me with is just going back to the example of being an astronaut is a lot of professionals come to me and they say, Brian, I want to be an astronaut. I say, okay. So I have two questions for you. Do you have the experience or do you have the education to be an astronaut? They said, no. Well, so then you're not going to be an astronaut unless you actually get the education or the experience. You need one or the other. If you have both, amazing. But you need at least one of them. So then they realize, oh, well, I need to get one or the other, right? Either I start with education or I start with experience, and someone needs to give me an opportunity. Can you get experience without getting the education? Yes, you can. You can join different projects, you can join different groups, you can start to do things to volunteer with others and to start to get that experience as well without having to go to school. Okay, so there are different ways to be able to get what you need to be able to get to the job that you really want to do. But first, you need to recognize whether you have anything that that job or that career opportunity requires for you to be able to get there. I'll pause for a moment just in case Liesel or anybody wants to chime in or ask any questions.
I like the way that you have shared wherever you're working, feeling that, wow, they're paying me for this. And I think the reason why you mentioned that is because when you love something that you're doing and getting paid for it, that's like heaven, right? Because it's not work, it's life. You're living the life that you want to have by having that work and deriving income from that work as well. That's my interpretation. Is that right?
I am blessed in a way to have been able to be in touch with so many thousands of professionals across the world thanks to LinkedIn. You know how much I love that platform. I love Clubhouse as well because these interactions that we can have here are very rich, very real. But LinkedIn has truly changed my life. But the one thing that I will tell you, in all honesty, is that it's very, very sad to see there's a huge difference between the opportunities that we have in for some of us, or in some countries, and others with regards to career opportunities, education, manners, values, you name it. It's just there's a huge difference across the world, and I feel it is so unjust. And in many cases, it has to do with just where we were born. It has nothing to do with us personally, right? If we were given those opportunities, we would have been able to make something better out of those. Having said that, I was having a conversation with my daughter. My daughter is 6 years old, my little princess. Her best friend, she's 6 years old as well. We were at the park with her parents, and her dad and I, we went there to grab some coffee and bring to our spouses. We were chatting on our way back, and we were talking about how a lot of people, whether it is in Canada, in the US, or in any other country, a lot of people just complain about whatever it is, any of their circumstances. And there are other people who see opportunities, and they find ways to get through and to achieve more. And the example, I'm going to be very specific about the example. I have two examples actually we were discussing on the weekend. One of them, I tell my wife when we ride an Uber or we ride a taxi, the person who is driving has an opportunity to make your journey, your drive pleasant, enjoyable, to converse with you, to at least attempt to make it more pleasant for you. They don't know whether you want to chat or not, but many of them don't even try. I understand a lot of them don't speak the languages fluently, but many of them don't even try. It's very, very simple to have some gestures, something to try and to make you feel like they care to be driving you, right? They are responsible for you at that moment. That simple gesture is the difference between them making a tip or no tip. They could actually be making more money just by making your life better during that journey, during that drive. The same thing applies to someone who is working as a cashier somewhere at a coffee shop. Life, our job should not be about just doing the bare minimum to get by. I can totally sympathize with someone not wanting to wake up in the morning to do exactly that, drive a taxi or an Uber, or being a cashier somewhere and being completely depressed about it. But what can you do about that? Either you use your mind and you really tell yourself how blessed you are and you really appreciate what you have and the fact that you can pay the bills, and you try to make somebody else's day, morning better, and try to start a conversation, or you don't. But if you do, the opportunities are endless. I promise you that there are so many people out there who are not having the most amazing life, but they have some social skills and they are able to build these relationships and get out of the situation where they are in. It's important that us, we recognize where we're at and that we maximize our opportunities. Every single interaction that we have, wherever it is, here on Clubhouse, with every single one of us here, or at the coffee shop, or in an Uber, or walking down the street, is an opportunity to give and potentially to take. If we focus on giving, and I always say give, 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 and whenever you think that you're done giving, give again. Always focus on what it is that you can do for someone else. I promise you, you will get back. The fact that I am living this amazing life, I cannot emphasize that enough. I'm not bragging about it, about this. I'm trying to hopefully it comes across this way: empower and inspire every single one of you to recognize that the only reason why I'm blessed to live this life right now, personally, professionally, and financially, is because of the fact that I've given so much. I haven't started just giving when I discovered LinkedIn. A lot of people ask me, so this is an act? It's something that you do just for LinkedIn to attract people, to attract followers and then customers? And no, the answer is no. The answer is that I started giving when I was 5 years old, when my classmate didn't have books, and I found out that his parents couldn't purchase his books. So I went to my parents and I said, hey, I need another set of books. They said, the same books? We just got you the books. So I need another set. What for? Because my classmate cannot get books. They said, okay, absolutely, of course, we'll get you another set of books for him. and I became his first and best friend. I was the only one who was invited to his birthday parties. This is an anecdote, but I want you to know that this whole thing starts from the moment that we're born. We live our lives in a certain way, and we attract whatever we plant, I guess. I don't know, like there are so many English expressions, but basically we reap what we sow, whatever, however it is that that saying goes, right? Give, give, give. Don't count how many seeds you're planting. Just keep on planting, 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 planting. You will see how many flowers will blossom. Promise you, the more you give without any expectations, the more you will get in return.
It's lovely, Brian. I think we're both very much on the same page. I say to my clients, like, what brings you joy? And I'm so surprised. A lot of people don't know. I mean, I didn't know at one point in my life. I just thought work did bring me joy, but you need more than that. But I think what you were saying is it's not about where you are. Sometimes it does suck life. You need to have grit and you need to work out how can I feel how I want to feel today. And by giving smiles, you actually just get so much back. And just it's really that simple once you start actually smiling at people. I worked in a deli for 5 years when I was younger, like doing all the meat. It was not the best job. I stunk. My mum wouldn't even let me walk in the house with the clothes on. I had to clean that, but I really put my all in that job. I learned so many things and I really enjoyed still doing it. And like you said, it got me a lot of things I wanted when I was at university. It sucked, but you could choose when you're climbing a mountain if you sing, or you can choose if you're going to live it with a grudge. And I think that that's the most important thing that people know. You get to take control of how you feel, even when sometimes the roller coaster isn't actually going your way.
When I came here to Canada 19 years ago, I came with $0 in my pocket. $0. I came, thank God, I came with my parents, my sister, and I came with hunger, with drive, with dreams. I wanted to do something, to achieve something. Within 1 week, I was employed. Who would have known that being able to speak Spanish, like that would be a skill, right? Like I grew up with that. Like anybody who's born and raised in Buenos Aires, Argentina, is going to know how to speak Spanish. But I applied through connections. I managed to get that first job. I was saving up, and I was saving up, and even though it was at the call center and it was above minimum wage, but not by much, I was saving and I was feeling dignified. I guess I felt dignified. The fact that I could actually pay for my own bills. My friends were actually wasting a lot of money on beer and who knows what else they were smoking. I was saving every single penny and I was very driven. I wanted to achieve. I came here for a reason. I came here to make the most out of this opportunity. So I was saving every single dollar that I could. And at one point, I was working 5 jobs at the same time. And within a year, I purchased my brand new car. Half of it was in cash. And then a year later, I purchased my beautiful home, and I was only 22 years old. So I always wonder why others who were born here in these countries are not achieving as much. From what I've noticed, it's because they are not as hungry. If you're really hungry and you want to achieve, you can, because this is the land of opportunities. Whether it is Canada or the US, you're in North America or you're in a first world country, there are opportunities. There's no way that you can tell me that there are no opportunities in this country. Even through a recession, even through COVID, even through anything, they're always hiring. If you're driven, you will find your way, right? So for me, I don't think that there are any excuses. Anybody, why there's always a story of someone out there who came out of nothing, or from nothing, from poverty, from parents who were illiterate, who didn't finish school, whatever the reason is, they are doing amazing. Why does it always have to be the story about someone else? Why can it not be our story? So the beauty is that it can be our story, but we have to actually do what it takes to be able to write that story. Dreaming about it, praying about it, doesn't actually do anything. We actually have to take action and be methodical, be driven, and do something to be able to drive those outcomes, those results, right? Liesel, Lisa, and anybody else, if you want to chime in or ask any questions.
We talked about the dream job being something that you're hungry for, being something that makes you feel fulfilled. What have you found are the key focus areas that they have to do as they are looking for that dream job?
There are two things that most professionals don't realize, and I will tell you with an analogy kind of what it is so that everybody can understand. When professionals come to me, they cannot articulate what it is that they are struggling with. So they tell me, Ryan, I can't get a job. That is like me going to the doctor and saying, Doctor, my body hurts. The doctor is going to ask me, like, can you be more specific about this? Is it your head? Is it your toes? Is it your muscle, your bone, your skin? Tell me something, because you're not being very, very clear. Unfortunately, I cannot expect someone who cannot articulate an answer like that, cannot expect them to know what to say. So I have to guide them. So basically, I ask them, what is it that you're struggling with? Are you either unable to land interviews, or are you unable to convert those interviews that you are landing into job offers? Which one is it? It's one or the other. If you're not landing interviews, or you're not landing the interviews that you want, then you're not going to be able to get job offers, clearly, because you're not landing interviews. But if you are able to land interviews and you're unable to convert them into job offers, then you have to work on your interviewing skills. A lot of professionals, this is how badly they are confused. They do land interviews, they are unable to convert them into job offers, and they ask me, am I not getting the job because of my resume? So when I ask them, are you landing interviews? They say, yes, lots of interviews. I interviewed 18 times in the last, let's say, 9 months. Okay, so your resume has nothing to do with it. Because if your resume was bad, if you didn't have the knowledge, skills, experience, expertise, and education that they are looking for, they wouldn't have invited you in for an interview. You're not actually getting the job offer because you don't have the interview skills. It has nothing to do with your resume. Your resume got you through, it opened the door. There were dozens, if not hundreds of applicants for any given job. Whenever we go on LinkedIn jobs, we can see how many applicants there are on any given job. So we know that if we were one of the ones selected, one of the very few, maybe 5 out of, let's say, 700, and it's happened to me, I was one of 500. So I knew that my resume made the cut. So that actually gave me confidence to show up and to know that, wow, they see something in me. Otherwise, why would they be interviewing me? So it's really important, first of all, to diagnose what it is that we're actually struggling with. What are they actually struggling with? Are they unable to land the interviews, or are they unable to convert them into job offers? And then once they identify what it is that they're struggling with, then they need to focus on actually fixing that. If you're unable to land interviews, which is the first step, what is it that you need to do differently? The question is, are you tailoring your resume, for example? Are you wasting time tailoring your resume? Do you have multiple versions of your resume? Maybe for one role, maybe you want to be, let's say, a product owner like myself or anything, any other role, and you have multiple versions of your resume. People tell me that they have a folder full of resumes, right? And they spend 15 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour tailoring and updating keywords and this and that, right? Do you waste time tailoring your resume? Do you waste time researching organizations before you even apply? Do you waste time writing cover letters that no one is going to read? Is your LinkedIn profile even matching your resume? Because if any of these 4 points is wrong, or you're doing the wrong thing, you're limiting your chances of actually landing those interviews. The longer you take to apply for a job, the less likely you're actually going to be called in for an interview. There's no employer out there, other than maybe the government in some cases, that is actually going to go through every single applicant that's applied for the job. Just because the job posting is open, it doesn't mean that they're actually going to go through every single person who's applied for the job. The job is open, and within minutes they have dozens, if not hundreds, of applicants. They're going to go through X number, however many it is, until they find a good number of applicants that they want to interview. And basically, they will become candidates. And the rest are not going to hear anything. They're not going to be rejected yet, potentially. They're not going to be ignored. They're not going to be contacted. Nothing is going to happen with those until they finally decide to shut down that job posting, close it, and then everybody is going to be rejected. And they're going to get this generic message saying, yeah, we have decided to go with someone else. So the key is to be fast. Technology, and this is something that a lot of professionals don't realize, is that technology has made our lives easier. But a lot of professionals complain, oh yeah, there are so many applicants on any given job. Well, if you knew how to leverage technology to your advantage, then you would be able to actually land so many more interviews. Liesel will not allow me to lie. Liesel knows Dylan, one of my mentees. Dylan landed 25 interviews in a single week. And Dylan is now a VP of marketing at 27 years of age. Dylan doesn't even have facial hair. He had never even worked in corporate before. And he's a VP of marketing. This guy is set for life now. Where is he going to go from VP to senior VP to CMO? This guy is set for life at 27 years of age. So what we need to recognize is that technology is here to help us, but we have to know how to use it, and we have to be intrigued by it and curious about it and wanting to unlock its full potential to help us. How many of us really know how to use Chat GPT? Have we actually even logged into it, registered? Have we played with it? Have we seen what it can actually do for us in our jobs? Can it make our jobs easier? There are so many tools, not just ChatGPT. There are dozens of AI tools. Have we experimented with any of them to make our lives easier? So I'm telling you, these tools are available to every single one of us. Uber is available to my grandma, but my grandma chooses, because it's a choice, chooses to go to the street, to stop the cab, and to go from place A to place B by hoping that there is a cab at that time of the day in her street, right? But she could, if she wanted, she could actually download Uber and learn how to press two buttons and get that car to pick her up, right? So technology is there for us, but we need to be intentional about leveraging that technology to be able to benefit from it and to stand out from everyone else. That's the one part. Liesel, do you want me to pause here for a moment? Because that's about landing interviews. So I talked about the four different aspects that we need to master to know how to land interviews. Because if we mess up one of those, then the chances of landing interviews diminish significantly.
The second part of your point about the diagnosis, what's not working. The second part is about converting the interviews to job offers. Is that where you're going,
Yeah,
Brian?
absolutely. That's the other pain point that professionals have, that they don't know how to. I mean, you've been selected among dozens, if not hundreds of applicants, right? You're a candidate. They're taking you seriously. They loved something on your resume. They saw potential in you. Now it's on you to lose it. You have to recognize that you are there where they appreciate you already. The question is, what are you going to do differently from everybody else who is going to go to that interview as well? I'll give you an example. I was running a LinkedIn audio room a few weeks ago, and there was someone, I'll say his name out loud, it doesn't matter. He said it out loud anyway, publicly. His name is Mark. Mark, very seasoned professional. He was saying in one of my rooms, and this will maybe segue into, if you want, Liesel, afterwards, to those questions that were posted. All these questions need to be asked at the end of the interview. We can touch on those if you want afterwards. I was talking about the different questions that should be asked at the end of the interview. And Mark was on stage and he said, the question that you should be asking at the end of the interview is, what does success look like at the 30, 60, 90, and 180-day mark? One of the questions that he suggested should be asked or must be asked at the end of an interview. So that is not one of the four questions that my mentees ask at the end of the interview. Every single one of my mentees ask the exact same question in the exact same order for a very specific reason. So I said, look, Mark, the question that you're asking or that you're suggesting is a good question. Okay, it's better than other questions, such as, what are the next steps? Please never ask that question ever again. Okay, it's terrible. So it's a good question. But let me ask you a question. Whenever you go on, let's say, Google, and you are searching for the top 5 questions to ask at the end of an interview, let me ask you, Mark, do you believe that that question will be in the best blogs of career development out there, in the best job seeking blogs where they cover which questions should be asked at the end of an interview? And he said, absolutely yes. Every single one of the top 5, 10 blogs out there in the world will have that question. I said, okay, great. So let me ask you this. How do you plan to stand out from everyone else who is also doing that research to find those best questions to ask at the end of an interview? How do you plan to stand out as a candidate if you are doing the exact same thing that everybody else is doing during an interview? How? Because if you keep on doing what everybody else is doing, inevitably they're going to compare you to everyone else based on your knowledge, skills, experience, expertise, education, and not just that, your height, weight, color, accent, visa status, and so on and so forth. Not that it is right, but people do that because I can tell you that I speak to employers and they comment on these things. How are you going to actually stand out from everybody else who is interviewing for that same role? So much so that the employer goes, wow, Liesel, like I've never met anyone like you, whether they tell you or not, right? But they need to feel this way. Wow, I've never met anyone like Liesel in my life. She's amazing. Like I can't wait to actually have her here. You don't want to give them the opportunity to compare you to anybody else because the odds of you getting the job, if they compare you, are slim. If there are five professionals being interviewed, five candidates being interviewed, your odds of getting the job are 1 in 5 or 20%. If there are more, the chances actually, or the odds actually diminish. If there are 10 professionals being interviewed, your odds of actually getting the job are 1 in 10 or 10%. If you talk to someone like Charles Jean-Pierre, he's in cybersecurity, he got a job at Princeton University. He was interviewing with 40 other candidates. No, there were not 40 applicants. There were hundreds of applicants, and they selected 41 candidates. He was one of the 41, and he managed to get the job. And he's reporting to the CISO, to the Chief Information Security Officer. And he got an amazing job, amazing pay, and his daughter is able to attend Princeton for free. That's $95,000 a year that he doesn't have to pay for her. That's a lot of money. So what did he do differently? Because he never attended a top school. And this is one of the things that a lot of professionals bank on. Oh, I went to an Ivy League school. I went to Harvard. I went to Yale. I went to Princeton. I went to wherever it is, right? I went to top school, so they're going to hire me. It's not that world anymore. How did Charles, someone who did not attend a top school, how did he manage to beat everybody else who did? There must have been something else that he did. That's the big question that I want to ask you. Have you ever asked yourself, what is it that the employers are actually looking for? Because they're not looking for anything on your resume. Your resume has done its job. It's done and dusted. I can tell you that the consulting gig that I have right now for one of a top bank, a very, very large bank, I didn't tailor my resume. I didn't write a cover letter. I didn't even prepare for the interview. I didn't even research them. I didn't do anything. I put 0 seconds of effort into that application. They actually looked for me and I managed to get the job. And on top of that, I managed to negotiate. So what did I do differently? Because I was telling yesterday to someone that my employer, my manager, I'm consulting, by the way, I mentioned this to you before. My manager asked me 3 questions that my 6-year-old could have answered. I'm not kidding you. Anyone who has been in Scrum or Agile for at least for a year would know how to answer these questions. So she was not trying to filter me out. She was not trying to make my life hard during the interview because I did something different. So I'd love to pause for a moment and help you think about this, help you try to figure it out yourselves together with me tonight. What is it that you believe I did differently during the interview to get the job and for her to not make my life so difficult during the interview? How did I manage to get the job? How did Charles manage to get the job? How did all my other mentees manage to get the job? What do you think we did differently? If you don't get to the answer, don't worry, I will give you the answer anyway. But I wanted to walk you through this so that you can start to think about this differently. What did we do differently during the interview to be able to get the job immediately? Anybody wants to attempt to guess?
I can try. You said something that kind of resonate. What is it that employers are looking for? In your resume, you have facts, experience, things that they're already written and you can relate about. But there's a lot of intangible things that employers are looking for, and they're very hard to kind of pull out of the resume. And I think that's where you have to exploit. What it specifically is could be many things.
You're going in the very right direction. I'm going to fill in just a moment with more details. Anybody else wants to give it a shot and add more?
I will guess that you ask them what their current challenges are. And in that discussion, you have given them some ideas of how those challenges may be addressed. That's my guess.
Good guess, but not the right guess. No, I promise you, Liesel, that in 19 years in Canada, I have never asked that question and I have never talked about their pain points ever. Never, ever, ever. I have never focused on their pain points ever.
Okay.
I will tell you. I will tell you in another moment. Anybody else who wants
Okay.
to give it a shot? Lisa, come on, you seriously.
I'm just imagining you acted curious at asking more about them than yourself,
Well, yeah,
telling them
yeah,
about you.
you're going in the right direction. Yes, absolutely. Do you want me to get to the point?
You jump to it, my friend.
Okay, here's the thing. The interview, I hope that you feel how comfortable I feel. I mean, you guys are making me feel very comfortable tonight. But during the interview, it's a very nerve-wracking environment for most professionals. For me, it's a walk in the park. I just walk in there. I don't give a crap, excuse my language. I don't give a crap about anything. I just walk in, not with arrogance, okay, not with arrogance, but with confidence in myself, in whatever it is that I know. My dad, may he rest in peace, he passed away almost 10 years ago. My dad used to tell me this before an exam when I was in school. He used to tell me, don't study 5 minutes before the exam. Either you know your stuff and you study it before, or you don't. So don't worry about 5 minutes before, because you're not going to master anything 5 minutes before. Or either you do your homework or you don't do your homework. When I walk into those interviews, I promise you, I don't research anybody. I just walk in with a different focus. My focus is to build a meaningful relationship with the person in front of me and to focus on them. One thing that a lot of professionals, or the vast majority of professionals, don't realize about is that the hiring decision is not rational, is emotional. No one hires anyone rationally, unless, of course, everybody is at the same level. Nobody stood out, and now they are comparing. Oh, this person has more education. This person has worked more in this industry. This person has the visa status, whatever. This person has a citizenship. This person has a driver's license. Whatever the case might be, if no one stood out and they have 5 candidates, of course it's going to be irrational, because now they are comparing you. But the key, if you want to truly stand out from everyone else, is to make it emotional, to the point that they're like, oh my God, I love you. I feel like I've known you forever. I feel like we've met before. I can totally relate to your story. It's happened to me. We have so many things in common. I've even made my hiring manager, the HR hiring manager, cry. And they still gave me the job offer. And in fact, I have someone, her name is Adriana, or Adriana in English. And she told me I made my hiring manager cry as well, and I got the job. She literally got 7 job offers in 7 weeks. And I met her the day before she got fired. She knew she was going to be fired. Her mom introduced her to me. And I thought that she was not going to take my mentorship, honestly, because typically we don't listen to our parents, especially when we're not doing well. Like, why are we going to listen to our parents? I met Adriana, and Adriana was like, I'd like for you to mentor me. I said, amazing. So I mentor her. And the beauty about this is that she doesn't have her visa status, and she got a government job as well. In the first 3 weeks of mentoring her, she got 3 job offers. The beauty about this is that she got a government job without being a permanent resident of Canada. And on top of that, the company that fired her wanted to hire her back, which was a huge boost of confidence to her ego, to her confidence level. Because imagine, you were fired from somewhere and now they want to hire you back. Of course, she didn't take that job back. She was like, no, I already got burnt with that milk. I'm not going to go there again. She got the job at the government, and she worked at the government for a couple of months, and then she quit that one because she managed to get another even better job than that one, with better pay, better benefits, better everything, even better aligned with her career. It's important to recognize what it is that we need to do during the interviews to truly stand out. Because most people are trying, or most professionals or candidates are trying to fit in. They're trying to be like everybody else. They go to the same blogs as everybody else. And that's why the information that I share in my mentorship program, I don't put it, or you cannot find it publicly absolutely anywhere. Because the questions that I ask my mentees to ask, nobody has them. Because this is the reason why employers react every single time. They say, I've never heard this question before. I've never been asked this question before. And they are puzzled. Their minds are blown. They're like, wow, I've never been asked this question before. And the one thing, just to make sure that I don't leave it so mysterious and I give you more to think about this so that you can go through the process yourself, I want you to start questioning every single thing that you do throughout your entire job search process. I was mentioning before about tailoring your resume. What? Never tailored my resume in my life. And here I am right now, making almost 600,000 bucks a year, right? Bringing that for my family. I've never written cover letters. In fact, I will tell you something. I've written cover letters. No, I actually didn't write cover letters. I submitted cover letters that were empty. And I basically put in within the document error, the actual word error, to see whether my application would go through. And I managed to land the interview. So that tells me that I actually don't read the cover letters, which is something that we've proven because we ran a study. We were able to prove that employers don't actually care about those cover letters. They don't even read them, even when they ask for them. I never researched the organizations. Why am I going to spend 15 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour on them when we know wholeheartedly that they don't spend more than 6 seconds on us? They don't spend 6 seconds on me, and I am supposed to spend 6,000 seconds on them? That's crazy. I'm not going to do that. Why? Let's turn the table around. Let's be fair. You spend 6 seconds on me, I will spend 6 seconds on you. In fact, our mentees apply for jobs within 4 seconds. Every single job should take you 4 seconds to apply to. And let's apply quickly. Stop applying on company websites. You're telling me that in 2023, like we have to apply on company websites? So I upload my resume and your stupid system cannot actually pick up all my information from my resume? Sure, many of you have a resume that cannot be read by anybody, even by a human being. But if you actually write a proper resume, it should be able to pick up all your information and for you not to have to actually input it again. So that's why I'm saying let's leverage technology to our advantage so that we don't drive ourselves nuts. I want to finish with another point in a moment, but I don't want to forget about this either. I want to tell you that with regards to compensation, a lot of us, unfortunately, and I used to make this mistake as well, I was not negotiating my compensation because I thought that they were going to resign my offer. So anytime that they asked me, how much do you want to make? I would always reply to them early on in my career. I would say to them, to the employers or the interviewers, I would say, I trust that you're going to make me a fair offer. And that is so bad. I was so naive. I was so dumb, honestly. There's no fair offer. They're not making you a fair offer. Especially if you're interviewing like everybody else, there's no fair offer. They're going to offer you the bare minimum, and if you don't negotiate, cha-ching for them. They keep that money in their allocation, in their pool to hire somebody else, to give themselves a promotion, or to give somebody else a promotion. That's money for them. So the key, and this is why it's so important to understand how to interview, like an interview sniper, basically, to go into an interview and walk away, giving them the urgency to hire you immediately, to stop comparing you to anybody else. So when you try to negotiate, they pay you what you're actually worth. Because if, let's say, to give an example, let's say that, I don't know, let's say that Liesel interviews and she gets a job offer for $250,000 a year, right? She gets a job offer. Liesel wants to negotiate and she wants to get $300,000 a year. But they also interviewed Lisa. And Lisa did an amazing job during the interview, but they cannot hire everybody. They have to hire one person. Typically, they tell us that, right? Oh, unfortunately, we can't hire everybody. Otherwise, we would have actually hired you too, right? Oh, well, that's great, but it doesn't help me, right? So Lisa gets the offer. She gets 250,000. She's the lucky one or the blessed one. And then Lisa, she was not selected. But Liesel wants to negotiate for 300,000. And now the employer is like, oh my God, I can't believe that Liesel is actually, she has the guts or she has the whatever it is to negotiate. Wow, how greedy she is now. Wow. Like if she didn't stand out from everybody else, especially from Lisa, then that's what they're going to think of Liesel. But if Liesel truly stood out from everyone else, and especially from Lisa, then they're going to consider it and most likely actually give her what she's asking for because they absolutely loved her. So the key when you interview is not just to get the job, is to really stand out so much so that when you negotiate, it's a no-brainer for the employer. The employer goes like, hell yeah, of course I'll pay you that. I would have actually even paid you more potentially if you ask for more. They must feel that way. Remember, it's an emotional decision. They must absolutely love you to the point that they don't consider anybody else. And I tell you, it's happened to me. When I went to an interview with the very first time that I went for a government job, I did not even sit on the chair. It took me literally 15 seconds to get the job offer. Like literally 15 seconds. To the point that I had not actually walked into my manager's office. I was still in the lobby. Her name was Anne. I was 22 years old. This was 17 years ago. I said, hi, Anne, how are you? Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time, blah, blah, blah. And when I finished with all these pleasantries that everybody calls chit chat, how everybody calls it, she said, we'd like to start working here this afternoon. And I looked around, I was like, is this like Big Brother? Is it like a prank? Are there cameras here? What's going on? And of course, I took that. I didn't reply that. I didn't say that. I didn't say, oh, is this a prank? No. I said, absolutely. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It will be a pleasure. And then she said, you know what? Actually, this afternoon might be too soon. Why don't you start on Monday? And then I started on Monday. I was 22 years old. I had not even finished university and blah, blah, blah. I had everything against me. There were hundreds of applicants for that job. And yet I got it in 15 seconds. You can call it lucky, but if I manage to do this multiple times in so many different interviews where I go in, not in 15 seconds, but every single time that I go into an interview, I walk away with a job offer, then it stops being luck. Maybe there is a method to this madness.
You mentioned a post that we have, an article that we posted on LinkedIn where there are suggestions of questions to ask during the interview. And I saw your comment that I probably wouldn't ask all of those. I would only ask two. So would you like to comment on that, Brian?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the very first question, so the post goes like this, and you can go on the mentoring club. You can check it out. It's somewhere. If you go to the posts, you can find it. It has a blue background. It says like this: does the company engage and support their employees? Your goal is to see whether employees feel it's beneficial to work there. Here are some questions you can ask about employee engagement. I want you to question what's the point of asking questions at the end of the interview. For sure, you must ask questions. Don't stay quiet. I have one mentee of mine. His name is Alberto. He's in Mexico. I went to Mexico twice in the last few months, and I was having dinner with him. And he said, "My wife got a job thanks to you." And I said, "She's not my mentee." And he said, "Well, I taught her what you taught me." And she asked the questions at the end of the interview. And when she got hired, she asked her manager, "Why did you choose me?" And he said, "Because of the questions that you asked at the end of the interview." Not only they were amazing questions, but also she was the only one who asked questions. So make sure that you always ask questions, but it must be amazing questions. I promise you, if you ask really bad questions, you can actually lose the job. So make sure that you ask amazing questions. So the essence of what you need to understand is why you're asking those questions. These questions are not about you finding out more about the organization. That's not the moment for you to do that. When you're at an interview, the key for you is to actually sell yourself. You have to sell yourself. You want to find out other things that are important to you. For example, I'll give examples. Let's say that you're a member of the LGBTQ plus I, right? Or I plus. You identify yourself as a member of the community, right? And that's important for you because you know that this organization is striving to have equality within their workforce, right? The moment for, and I'm giving you an example that is a real example from someone who asked this question and failed, didn't get the job. Not one of my mentees, okay? He asked the question of, what are you doing right now to be able to ensure that you have equality within your workforce? When you go to an interview, it's not about actually putting the interviewer or the employer on the spot and to question them and to put them against the wall and being like questioning them about what they are doing and how they are succeeding in this or that thing that they are saying that they are aspiring to do. It's not for that. If that's really important for you and you would not choose to work in that company unless truly they are actually doing what they are saying they're doing, once you get the job offer, then you can ask them these questions. But first, recognize the mission, the objective for you is to get the job. Once you get the job, you're not forced to actually accept the job. You can ask all the questions that you want in the world. I mean, some of them you shouldn't ask, really, if you really want to keep that job. But if there are certain things that are critical for you to know before you accept the job, ask them once you actually have the job offer in front of you. Don't give them any reasons to not hire you. Okay? So on this particular post, the very first question is, what makes you proud to work at this company? Remember, my comment on that post was, out of all those questions, there are only two worth asking. Don't ask the other 10, ever. Some not during the interview, some not ever. Can't find out why. So the first one, what makes you proud to work at this company? That's an amazing question. That's one of the two. Why is it amazing? This is what I want you to understand. Because you want them to talk proudly about what it is that they do, right? You want to inflate their egos, basically. People love to talk about themselves. You want them to talk about themselves, right? You want them to sell that opportunity to you. You want them to tell you everything that's amazing about your organization. You want them to get into that mode of, I'm selling you the opportunity. I want you to choose, please choose this job if you're interviewing at different organizations. So you want them to talk about their pride, not just about their company, but the key word is proud. What is it? Is it the culture? Is it your relationships with your colleagues? Is it what your growth that you've had over the years? You can even give them options. You can talk about this, you can talk about that. Give them ammunition, give them things for them to boost their egos, to inflate their egos, so they can talk about anything and everything that they're proud about. Okay, that's an amazing question to ask. Okay, that's one of the 4 questions that my mentees ask. Now, the second question: how does the organization support your professional development and career growth? I know that you're interested in growing. I know that you're interested in continuing to advance in your career, but that's not the moment for you to ask this question. Is it a good question? Sure, but are there better questions to ask? These questions actually be found in one of those top 5 or 10 amazing blog posts. Yes, if it can be found there, then you should not be asking that question. You should know that even if the organization is not investing in you, it's your responsibility as a professional, as a human being, to invest in yourself. So, what are you going to do if your organization is not investing in you? Are you going to stop investing in yourself? No, you should invest in yourself as well, right? What are they going to invest in you anyway? They're going to invest $1,000. You tell me that you should not, that you in your profession you are unable to invest $1,000 in yourself, or 2,000, or whatever the amount is. You should be investing in yourself anyway, with or without their help. If they help you financially, amazing, and time-wise, amazing. And if they don't, you still have the obligation to invest in yourself. It's risk-taking encouraged. And what happens when people fail? Why would you want them to think about you thinking that you could potentially fail, right? You don't want to plant that seed in their minds about the fact that you can actually fail, right? You want them to see you as a success. Sure, can you make mistakes? Of course. Can you fail? Absolutely. But you don't want to plant that seed in their minds. You want them to think about you as, okay, this person is going to come in and is going to solve our problems without blowing everything up. Okay. Number 4, what role do company values play in hiring and performance reviews? Why is that even important? If you do your job and you go above and beyond, you're going to do amazingly well. That's the bottom of it. What does it matter? Company values, like if you care about the company values, you can ask them about company values afterwards, or you can research the organization. You should know also companies, especially large companies, they differ from one pocket to another. Just because a company values at a certain organization, they say that they do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. The culture changes from one team to another. I have 2 of my best friends working at Amazon. One has an amazing time, the other one is miserable. Why? Each group works differently. There are people who go to their desks crying. There are people who are immensely happy. There are people who are like, you know what, it's just another job. Care more about building that meaningful relationship with your interviewer to get to know them, their style, their communication style, their values. See if you have anything in common so that when you start there, you are actually appreciated for who you are. A lot of people leave their personal stuff at the door. Make sure that you show up and you show them who you are, both professionally and personally, so they truly get you. They understand who you are. Okay, I will tell you. In fact, I will tell you this. There was one job where I was at the interview. Everything was going amazingly well. Okay, incredibly well. At the end, I mean, my manager was, I guess, old school maybe. Even though we had an amazing conversation, I was driving the whole conversation, controlling the whole conversation. My manager wanted to ask me some questions. She asked me the questions. Everything was amazingly fine. And at the end of the interview, my wife and I were pregnant, and we were about to have our second child, our little prince. He's 3.5 now. At the end of the interview, I knew that she was going to give me the job offer. I could feel it. You know when everything has gone amazingly well, and truly has. The one thing that I said to her was, I want to let you know, I want to be completely upfront with you. I want to be completely transparent with you. Just want you to know that my wife and I are pregnant, and we're expecting to have our son within the next 2 weeks. The due date is this date. Sometime within the next, let's say, 3 weeks, my son is, God willing, meant to be born. I just want to let you know about this in advance because I don't want to surprise you. I like surprises, but I like positive surprises. I don't like negative surprises. So I want to let you know, just in case if you were considering to take me in for this role and this has a negative impact in your decision, I want you to know it beforehand so that I'm not wasting your time. I just really want to be sincere, honest, transparent, and upfront with you so that you can make the right decision for yourself, for the team, for the organization. Her response was, oh my God, thank you so much for letting me know. I appreciate it immensely. You have no idea how much it means. And you know what? This company is so parent friendly. So parent friendly. Don't worry if you have to take your child for a vaccination, doctor, exam, check, whatever it is. You can count on us. You can take whatever time you need. Don't worry. Whenever your son is born, you can take that time to be with your son. It's totally fine. And then we ended up talking about diaper poop. Who talks about diaper poop during an interview? But I did, and I got the job. Be truthful and be sincere and connect with the person who is interviewing you. It's about them and you. And those values about the organization, they may impact you or not. Because at the end of the day, you're working with that manager and those people under that manager, and that manager is going to control those values too. Then it says, how does the company deal with conflict and politics? Healthy conflict allows employees to share and resolve multiple viewpoints. Here are some questions to ask about conflict resolution. What causes conflict and how is conflict resolved? Again, similar to a previous question, you don't want them to see you as someone who is going to start conflict or who doesn't know how to resolve conflict. You want to actually show them, if you've ever experienced conflict in the past, that you know how to handle that, that you've learned from that. And you don't want to plant negative seeds in their minds. How do you describe organization politics at the company? You don't want, again, for them to see you or to associate any of these negative stuff with you. The next one, how are decisions made when there's disagreement and stakes are high? Again, all these questions have to do with disagreement, with conflict, with negative stuff. Some of this negative stuff is good stuff that leads towards good outcomes. During an interview, remember every single word, every single thing that you say, you're under the microscope. Don't plant those seeds. When and how do people like to give and receive feedback? What's the point? Like, there are much better questions. Give and receive feedback. Like, you can give me feedback anytime. I much rather appreciate feedback immediately. That's my style. I will actually even tell them. I told my recent manager, I told her, if you ever have any feedback for me, tell me immediately. Because I've had a situation 15 years ago, my first job here in Toronto, where my manager, he waited until the performance review to tell me something like, I don't like how you have been tying your shoelaces for the last 6 months. Well, why didn't you tell me 6 months ago so that today we could actually be talking about how you love the way that I've been tying my shoelaces for the last 6 months? So if there's any examples, give them examples. This is my style. This is what I appreciate. I appreciate immediate feedback. If there's anything to change, tell me immediately so that I can actually show you that I can adapt quickly. And then the last thing about this post is, what is the day-to-day work environment like? Just a place where people have fun, feel valued, and where the environment fits your needs. Here are some questions to ask about the work environment. What are some of the ways the company celebrates success? Beautiful. Beautiful. That's amazing. And give them options. Tell them, how do you celebrate? Do you go outside? Do you spend time outside the office together? Do you celebrate each other's success? Right? Are you sincerely happy when someone else accomplishes something big? Do you give credit where credit is due? Do you have friendships within the organization? Do you really enjoy working here? Right? That's success. Success is on a day to day. Right? It's not necessarily hitting a milestone, but the day to day is success. How do you support and motivate your team? Why does it matter? You need to be motivated. You need to let them know that you are hungry, you're driven, you're motivated, you're committed, that you are going to be a driving force within that team. You don't need your manager to be driving you. You are so hungry that whenever you come in, you are high fiving everybody. You are bringing in so much positivity. You are sincerely caring about those people around you. Because when you care for others, those people care about you. I've never had to ask my developers or testers or architects or anybody to work overtime. They knew if we needed as a team to accomplish a certain goal, they knew that they had to pull their weight or go the extra mile or go above and beyond to deliver because we had commitment towards each other, towards the team. We've succeed and failed together. We give these examples. What kind of flexible work arrangements do people have? Please do not ask these during the interview. Okay? If you need flexible work arrangements, ask once they actually give you the job offer. Because if you start asking what flexible work arrangements you need or they are willing to give you, they're starting to ask, oh my God, this is going to be terrible. Okay, so this person is not going to be able to show up on time. He or she is going to have to leave early. Or maybe they are going to have to go to the doctor because their child is, if this is child related, and they are going to have to go to the doctor because of this, because of, oh my God, you know what? I already had that experience in the past. Forget about this. Let's move on. Remember, the key is for you to get the job offer, not for you to find out everything that you need to find out during the interview. And the last one is, if you have a specific need, ask about it. For example, a medical condition or schedule conflict. Please, this is again not the right time. Once you get the job, then if that is critical for you, especially, but not only, especially if you are leaving a job to choose a new job. I mean, we tend to think that the grass is greener on the other side. Make sure that you don't shoot yourself on the foot. If you're leaving a job, if you're telling me that you're going to be laid off or fired or whatnot, and you need to find something else, grab onto something else, sure, go and grab something else, even if they are not that flexible, especially if you don't have any other job offers. But otherwise, even if you happen to be unemployed, if you do exactly what I'm asking you, stop tailoring your resume and writing cover letters and researching the organizations, and you start doing all these things that I've been discussing with you or sharing with you, and you land a lot of interviews and you go to every single interview with a different mindset, a different attitude to truly stand out from everyone else, you will be attracting so many different job offers that you will be able to negotiate with them and select the best job for you. So whether you're employed or unemployed, the key for you is to really get the job offer, because nothing feels sweeter than actually getting a job offer. Get the job offer to know how much you're worth, professionally speaking, of course, and then you have leverage to be able to negotiate with other jobs or with your employer if you really care to stay there. A lot of people ask me, I am looking to get promoted within my organization. What should I do? The best thing that you can do is go and get another job offer somewhere else, or multiple. If you can get multiple job offers by doing exactly what I've been describing, get multiple job offers, then you have leverage to be able to go and negotiate with your current employer. And if your employer is not willing to actually pay you or give you the title or give you the compensation or whatever it is that you're looking for, that somebody else is willing to give you, because that happens all the time. Other employers are willing to give you so much more. They have just met you, but they love you way more than your employer. You've been killing yourself for the last year or two or 5 or 10 or 15, and they're not willing to give you anything. But this new employer thinks that you are gold. Go with whoever actually thinks that you're gold and be fair to yourself and your family. And I'll stop here because otherwise I can be here all night.
Thank you, Brian. Whenever I talk to you, I always get that contagious energy coming from you. Quick summary based on what we have covered so far. Number one is that you, as an interviewee, can stand out by making the interview experience emotional. Relate to the people like you've known them for a long time. As far as questions to ask during the interview, you chose two in that post that we have on LinkedIn. The two questions that you mentioned are really good questions to ask are number one, what makes you proud to work at this company? Because it allows the interviewer to talk about themselves. And then the second one to ask is what are some of the ways the company celebrates success? Because it's a very positive feeling that, again, the interviewer can share their experience with the company with you as if you're already a member of the organization. So, those are three takeaways. There's one question here, Brian. I don't know where to relate this to anymore because it was asked a few minutes ago. So he said, are these techniques applicable for C suite jobs or technology jobs?
Amazing question. I'm glad you asked that. When I first started mentoring professionals, I'll try to be very, very quick, very succinct with the story. When I first started mentoring professionals, I didn't know that I had this, I call it a gift. I sincerely see this as a gift because I truly can change people's lives. I didn't know that this could actually be applied to anything, anything. Forget about any industry, any job, any role, any nothing, any country even. The very first person that I've had the pleasure of mentoring was a gentleman by the name of Jean-Claude. Very complicated last name, I don't know how to pronounce it, but his name is Jean-Claude. He was born in Congo and he lives in South Africa. He's a father of three, married, and he was unemployed for 2 years. He met me on LinkedIn. He reached out to me on LinkedIn via private message and he said, Brian, what you've been sharing is insightful. So we had a conversation, we kept on chatting, and then eventually he brought up the fact that he was unemployed for 2 years. And he said that you apply, get a call, but then get ghosted. Basically, that's what he was complaining about. So I said, Jean-Claude, if you ever need absolutely anything, do not hesitate to reach out to me. And 3 days later, he reached out and he said he had an interview the next day. And I said, congratulations, that's amazing. Can I help you in any way? I didn't know anything about Jean-Claude. Okay, I hadn't spent the time looking into his profile or anything like that. We were just connecting, human to human. He responded with this. He asked me the following. Do you know anything about logistics? The only thing that I know about logistics till this date is that Amazon, UPS, FedEx, and DHL ship worldwide. That's all I know about logistics. I know nothing else about logistics. However, I know how to interview really well. Clearly, I hope that you've been enjoying this. I know how to interview really well. I can walk into any interview without knowing anything about the organization. I'm not exaggerating about this. And I walk away with a job offer every single time. I said, I don't know anything about logistics. However, I know how to interview really well. By the way, I was not trying to sell him anything. Till this date, I have not received a single penny from Jean Claude. I was not trying to sell him anything. I just wanted to help him, a fellow human being. I said, I don't know anything about logistics, however, I know how to interview really well. And this is what he replied. He said, you can always learn something from someone. I'll take your hand. I want you to please teach me. We spent 35 minutes. I asked him a bunch of questions and I understood exactly what was blocking him. I asked him these questions and I was able to uncover exactly the situations that happened to him in his previous interviews, some of them at least, that helped me understand what was his challenge, his obstacle. So I said, Jean-Claude, when you go to your interview tomorrow, these are the things that you're going to say. These are the things you're not going to say. This is the way that you're going to behave. This is the way that you are not going to behave. You're going to change your overall mindset and attitude. Okay, and I gave him some techniques. Some, I say some because I had never mentored anyone in my life before. I didn't have that formal training and I still don't. Okay, what I do is I've been able to put all this together myself with my 19 years of experience in Canada. The very next day, Jean-Claude went to that interview. This was for a multinational. When he came out of his interview, he said, I did what you said and my blood stopped boiling. I was like, huh, okay, well, I guess there's hope, right? Now, for the next 12 days, every couple of days, I would send him this message. No news, good news, meaning, have you heard anything? And he would reply, no news, good news. To me, what this meant was, as long as he hasn't been rejected yet, there's still hope. 12 days later, after that interview, on October 23rd, 2018, I was on my way to the office. It was a very, very special day. It was the anniversary of the passing of my dad. My dad had passed away 5 years prior. May he rest in peace. And on that day, I'm not kidding about this, I felt that my life was going to change in a very meaningful way. I didn't know exactly how or why or what or anything, but I was on my way to the office and I felt a special connection with my dad. I always do on the anniversary of his passing. He was my best friend, but that particular year I felt a special connection with him. And I got to the office and I sent Jean-Claude a very similar message, but this time it was slightly different. I was like, I'm sending you good vibes today. And when he got back to me a few hours later, he said, I got the job. But not only that, he became the right hand of the CEO of a multinational, the one that I prepared him for, that I mentored him for. So I called him up on WhatsApp and we were chatting. He was driving. He started to cry. I started to cry because he made me cry. He had to pull over to the side of the road and we were chatting. And at that moment, we both realized how meaningful this was for both of us. For him to be able to get back on his feet, to be able to feed his family again, to get his confidence again. You guys know what's expected of us as men in this world, how we need to feed our families, right? It's more in some societies than others. He had his confidence back. And for me, I was like, oh my God, I changed someone's life. I really changed someone's life. So when we hung up, I sat on my chair at the office, Government of Canada here, 5 years ago, and I asked myself, is this what people mean when they say that the planets were aligned? I was supposed to show up in his life, and this is the end of the story? Or I actually have a skill or maybe even a gift and I am able to change people's lives. I didn't have the answer. So I shared this story on LinkedIn. So many professionals started to flock to me, to come to me for guidance, for mentorship, for free. And I was mentoring them for free. I wanted to share what I knew to get them back on their feet, to help them advance in their careers. And every single one of them would go to their very next interview and get the job offer immediately. To finish the story, my wife got in between because my wife is like, what are you doing? Like, I got so addicted to doing this mornings, afternoons, evenings, weekends, holidays. Just like I am with you guys right now, I used to spend 4 hours with each person mentoring them. And my wife was fed up. She was like, you're missing out on precious moments with us as a family, which I'm shocked that she hasn't knocked on my door yet. And she was right about that. And I was like, I can't stop doing this. She asked me, stop mentoring people. Just give us our time back as a family. And I said, I can't stop mentoring people. These professionals, these people need me. They need guidance. They need someone to give them the clarity that they need. Otherwise, they've been unemployed for so long. They need to get back on their feet. She said, okay, so then you need to appreciate yourself. Your knowledge, skills, experience, expertise, value, everything, the commitment, the time that you spend with them. You have to value it because you're truly changing their lives. And that's when I started to charge. But when I first started doing this, I was doing it for free because I sincerely care. I still do. I care even more now because now there's a financial transaction in between us, so I have to care even more. But the one thing that I want to tell you is that I've been able to mentor with these same techniques that are not posted publicly. You cannot find them anywhere. I've been able to mentor so many professionals who were just recent graduates all the way to C levels, including someone who managed to get a job offer as a CEO. And she had never worked as a C level or even as a VP. The highest that she had ever worked at was in a director position. And she managed to get the job offer as a CEO. She ended up rejecting it because now she's working at Harvard University. So you have someone working at Harvard, someone working at Princeton. I've had PhDs, students with masters. I don't have that kind of education. And yet I am able to help them and guide them and tell them exactly what to do. Because the one mistake that a lot of professionals make is that they focus a lot on their profession. Nobody cares about the profession. It's human to human. We are in front of a human being. We are there to connect, to see whether we want to work together, to achieve amazing things together, whether we will enjoy working together and going through challenges on a day-to-day basis. So the whole approach that people take is completely wrong. People bank on their schools, where they studied, what education they have. I'm telling you, Adam One, a PhD graduate student from University of Toronto, if he cannot land interviews, who is going to land interviews? If a PhD cannot land interviews, Richard Mullings, 18 interviews he had, a master's degree, about to make a massive mistake when he met me. He wanted to go back to school. I was like, to study what? He says, to take a master's. I was like, what education do you have? He says, I have a master's. Why would you go back to school to take a second master's? Are you kidding me? People are so confused about where they are at in their job search process. Someone has asked me, and I will finish with this, Brian, should I get more education? I don't oppose to getting more education. I love people who invest in themselves and they want to study and get ahead. But the one thing that I want people to recognize, professionals to recognize, is that getting more education doesn't necessarily get you the job. You can have all the education in the world, you can have all the experience in the world, but if you don't know how to job search, and job search goes from beginning to end, how to apply for those jobs, where, with what, and how to interview, and how to negotiate. If you don't know how to do all that, you're not going to get the job that you're looking for, your dream job. And I tell you that I've had mentees who turned down what they thought were their dream jobs, like Peta Gay in Florida. She was being hired by the Miami Heat NBA team. She turned them down. Why? Because this other organization was willing to pay her $50,000 more. Some organizations take advantage of you because, oh, we have a pretty name, we have a very popular name, it's going to be good for your resume. Well, guess what? When I go to the bank, I don't pay my bills saying that I work for the Miami Heat. I pay my bills with green American dollars or with multicolor Canadian dollars. You cannot pay me less just because you have an amazing organization. Pay me what I actually deserve. At least that's my choice. Because otherwise, for every single year that I'm not making those $50,000 that someone else was willing to pay, that's money that I'm leaving behind that I will never get back. In the case of Richard Mullings, wanting to go back to school when he had a master's and he was able to land the interviews, he landed 18 interviews and he failed all of them. He was like, what am I doing wrong? You just don't know how to interview. You clearly are attracting them. They see something new. You just don't know how to interview. He came to me after 9 months of being unemployed. 3 days later, he got the job. Recognize what you have and just know that if you're ready for the next step in your career, go for it. And if you need guidance, if you want all the techniques that are underneath this tip of this iceberg, because there's only so much that I can share here. If you want that, let's talk and let's just take you wherever it is that you deserve to be. Okay? This applies absolutely wherever it is that you're at in your career. And I saw your profile, you're a senior product owner. I'm a product owner as well. So I'm telling you, I want to stay here as a senior product owner or product owner because I love it. But if you want to keep on going up, I'll take you up.
Thank you very much for answering that question, Brian. Just one last question. What questions should we not be asking while giving an interview?
Just an analogy, but very, very simple analogy. There's a time and there's a place and there's a way to ask any question. I always give this example about my wife and I when we went on our first date. Imagine if I show up and I say, hey, so what are we naming our kids? Are you crazy? We haven't even had dinner. We haven't even had coffee. What are you talking about? There's a moment to ask anything that you need to ask, but learn when and where and how. You can ask certain questions at a certain time if you want to be effective. Just know what you should be asking and know why you are doing the things that you are doing. Question every single thing that you're doing, especially if things are not working out. Why are things not working out? You're applying for jobs. You're not landing interviews. Why are you not landing interviews, especially for the ones that you are like, it's like if this job posting was written for me. And then they ghost you, they'll reject you, they ignore you, whatever it is. Why is that happening to me? Well, ask yourself the question. Stop applying blindly. hoping that something changes. That's the definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing over and over and over, hoping that something sticks, something changes. Nothing is going to change if you keep on doing the same thing, right? If you apply to hundreds of jobs and something is not working, it's not working. Let's find out why it's not working, or let's learn the way that things should actually work.
Lisa, I saw you unmute your mic.
But just to say thank you so much, Brian. There were so many gems you've shared there in your talk today. And I'd like everyone to remember that every decision we make is based on emotions. And when you understand that logic isn't the driver, you can start achieving and getting what you want. And people, their favorite thing they show in neuroscience when they've done brain scans, when people talk about themselves, that's when they're happiest. That's really lights our brain up. So always remember that when you're in an interview. No one really wants to know about you. They care about how you make them feel. So I think, thank you so much, Brian, for sharing. And I look forward to learning from you further. Thank you, Liesel, for organising this today.
Our mission is to provide a mentoring community for aspiring and seasoned leaders in the workforce. And this is happening globally. We have over 300 registered mentors and mentees in 41 countries. What we're doing now is we're expanding that reach to companies. So if your company, or if you work in a company and you think that having a mentoring program within your company would boost the employee morale and you would like to advocate for that, we're here to help you do that as well. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any of those interests. Brian, I'll give you the final words before we close the room.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate immensely your kindness and your support, your kind words, and your time. As I mentioned, it's precious. And I sincerely want to see every single one of you, whether you become my mentees or not, my clients or not. I want you to strive to push for more, to know that, I don't know. Someone once told me, stop telling people that if you could do it, they can do it too. But you know what? I don't know whether that's good or bad, but I sincerely, from my heart, I don't know whether that is a good technique or not, from something else, from in terms of inspiring people or not. One person told me not to, but that doesn't make it the absolute truth. I tell you, if I could do this, if I can be excited to get out of bed every single morning, excited to start the week on Monday mornings, being able to provide my family with comfort, with to have peace of mind, to know that I can pay the bills and I can live comfortably and save up. A lot of people cannot even save up, they incur so much debt. And I love what I do, the journey. There's no, like, forget about the destination, the journey, the day to day. Who knows what's going to happen to us tomorrow anyway? From my heart, I don't know whether this is a good thing, whether it actually helps or doesn't hurt, but from my heart, I'm telling you, sincerely hope that you take inspiration out of this. I didn't plan exactly what to say. All I wanted to speak to you from my heart tonight, to sincerely hope that you walk away with something that you are able to implement, to apply, and to change your lives, and to know that there is a much better way to live. If you're not living to your full potential, trust me when I tell you that I've done this for more than 500 professionals worldwide, across multiple industries, roles, seniority levels, and so on. If they could do it, if I could do it, you can do it too. All you have to do is just push yourself and be intentional. Again, this is not about convincing you to become my mentee or a paying client. Just push yourself, go for it, and don't give up on yourself. For any day that you're not living to your fullest is a wasted day that you will never get back. Just go for it and let me know once you get there. And if you're my mentee, of course, I'll celebrate your success. But if you do it by yourself, I'd love to celebrate your success as well. So please don't give up on yourself.
Thank you very much for those last words, Brian. And with that, thank you for sharing your afternoon with all of us. My wish for you is that you enjoy the journey.